hey guys, 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 hey guys.
Hey guys! Alright, so lesson 17 is all about solving a system of linear inequalities. So we've been graphing lines, then we graphed two lines. We graphed inequalities, now we're just gonna graph two inequalities on the same line, okay? So again, just a quick review of lesson 16. A system of linear inequalities is very similar to solving a system of equations, meaning that we're going to be graphing two lines on the same grid. The solution here, okay, remember we were talking about inequalities in lesson 16. This time, the solution is just going to be where the shaded regions overlap for our inequalities, okay? So you'll see what I mean in a second. All right, so again, here's that table again about your inequality signs. If there is no little equal to, then you connect the dots with a dashed line. If there is an equal to symbol for your inequality, you connect the points with a solid line. If it's less than, you're going to shade below. If it's greater than, you're going to shade above. Okay, example 1, graph the system of inequalities. So remember, going way back to lesson 13, you always want to make sure your line is written in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. So the first one, it's already solved for y. That one's good. Let's check the second one. It looks like I need to solve for y here. So I'm going to add 2x to both sides. So the final answer here would be y is greater than 2x minus 2. And this is what we put into our calculators to get our points. So I think you guys are pretty comfortable with putting these into the calculator to get your tables. But if you look on the first line, and again I like to color code, I'll call this my blue line, you'll notice that there's a fraction. Again, fractions are completely fine, we are comfortable with them, but I just want to show you how to put them into your calculator. So to get the fraction, if you hit the alpha button, that green button, y equals, and then enter, alpha, y equals, enter. It will open up a fraction bar and you can type anything you want into that. So our fraction here is 2/3. So 2, go down, hit the 3. Now, be very careful here. Do you see where the cursor is blinking next to that 3? You want to make sure that you hit the arrow key to move out of that fraction before putting the x in, or else it will give you a world of trouble, okay? X plus 3. Okay, so if you guys want to take a second and write this down, alpha, y equals, enter, is how you get the fraction. Okay. The next line that we're graphing, there's no fractions, we're cool there, 2x minus 2. All right, now, because of that fraction, our tables are going to look a little bit different. Okay, so remember, these fractions, it might be a little tricky to plot those. So we're going to kind of skip over those points. Only plot the points like 0, 3. 3, 5, 6, 7, okay? Plot the points with whole numbers that you know you can easily put on a graph. So I'm just going to pick a couple negatives. We'll do -6, -1. The next point that we can graph is -3, +1. After that is 0, 3. Keep scrolling through your table to find more points to plot. 3, 5. And let's scroll through the table to find maybe one more. Okay, and we'll do 6, 7. We'll end that there. Now remember, when we're graphing these systems of inequalities, we don't necessarily want to look for the solution point like how we did with equations. We don't really want to know the one point where these two lines cross. We're talking about the whole entire shaded region. So keep that in mind when copying down your table. For the next line, I'll call this my red line. Okay, looking at the table, copy down all of the x's and the y2's. So starting at -1 on the x, and then looking at the y's, I have -4, -2, 0, 2, and 4. We have what we need, okay? Now, let's go back to our blue line and plot these points. -6, -1. -3, +1. 0, 3. 3, 5. And 6, 7. Now, before we graph the next line, we need to think about this. Okay? For the blue line, the inequality sign is a less than or equal to. So, am I going to connect these with a solid or dash line? You should be saying solid because it has the little equal to. And am I going to shade above or below this line? Well, it's a less than, so I want to shade everything below, everything less than that line. So go ahead right now, connect the points with a solid line. Make sure yours is straighter than mine. And shade in everything below, very lightly, because we still have one more inequality to put on this graph. The next one, okay, you should still be able to see the grid. Take a minute and start plotting the points there. -1, -4, 0, -2, 2, +2, and 3, +4. Now again, I have to look at the inequality sign for this one.
Miss Barley forgot a point, guys. This point right here, too.
Did I? No. Do you want me to go back and do it again? All right. Do I want to connect these points with a solid or a dash line? So again, it does not have the little equal to, so I want to connect it with a dashed line. And am I going to shade everything above or below this line? Well, the symbol is a greater than symbol, so I want to shade everything above this line. So everything greater than this line. So here are my dashes. And I want to shade everything above this line, everything higher than this line, the whole region. Okay, so I know it looks a little bit crazy. I understand that, which is why we need to really understand what this means. Now, the solution set here, as we said before, is the shaded region is where the shaded regions overlap. So which area of this graph has both blue and red marks? Okay, right in here in the middle. So this whole area is the solution set. Okay? So again, let's see if we can find some points that are in the solution set. Is the point 0, 0 in the solution set? Well, let's look. 0, 0 is the origin, and yes, it is. Okay? So we'll put a yes. What about the point 4, -2? So find that point on your graph. +4 and -2. It's right here. Now notice how there's only blue shading in that area. So it's a solution to the blue line, but it's not a solution to the whole system. Next point we're going to check is 0, 3. So it's right here. It is on that solid line. So we talked about this in the last video. If the point is on a solid line, then yes, it is included in the solution. The point 0, -2, however, is a point right on that red line, which is dashed. So no, it is not a solution. Okay?
All right, let's take a look at the next problem. Hopefully there's no fractions. I'm scared of fractions.
Oh, there's a typo here, real quick. That should say y -1, sorry.
Okay, so taking a look at the first one, are we in y equals mx plus b form? Yes, we are. We'll call that my red inequality. And then if I look at the blue one, is y by itself? The answer to that should be no. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I get 1 is less than or equal to negative 3x plus 1. So I'm going to rewrite this one, y is less than or equal to negative 3x plus 1. So that's my blue one. All right, so we now know that you know how to put fractions in the calculator. So why don't you pause the video and go ahead and put these in your calculator and get some points for us. Okay, so that's what your table should look like. Just a couple of negatives, a couple of positives, and remember, we don't want to plot the points that have the decimals. So I'm going to go ahead real quick and plot these points. So we have negative 4, negative 2, 3, 0, 4. Okay, so just like Miss Barley did in the first example, this is my inequality sign. It is not equal to, so it's just greater than, so we know that we are going to do a dashed line, and we are going to shade above because it is greater than. So I'm going to do a dotted or dashed line, and I'm going to shade above because it's greater. So I'm going to go up like this, okay? The next one, I'm going to say negative 2, 7, negative 1, 4, 0, 1, 1, negative 2, 2, negative 5. This is going to be connected with a solid line. Okay, so I have a line underneath, so that means it's included, so this is going to be a solid line, and it's less than or equal, so I'm going to shade below. So I'm going to shade everything below. And just like Miss Barley said in the last video, your solution is where the two colors overlap. So that would be right in here. The one thing that Miss Barley did not mention in the last example is we need to make sure that we label each of our lines with the original. So if I look at the red one, I'm going to put y is greater than 1/2 x plus 4. And then the blue one here, remember, go back to the original, y minus 1 is less than or equal to 3x. All right, we labeled it with an S because that stands for solution. Now we have to decide if these points are in the solution set. 0, 0. Is that in the solution? No. 4, negative 2? No. 0, 3? No. 0, negative 2 is also no. Okay, so this one was a little tricky. If you want right now, you can find a point that was in the solution. I would pick something definitely that's up here, maybe this point right here, which would be negative 3, positive 5. All right, when you're done taking the notes, put your Chromebook away, get your classwork, and good luck.